Well, hello, and welcome back to that thing we like to call Curlis Mania, where we talk all things pop, rock, and prog. I'm very happy to welcome back to the channel Bicyclelegs. How are you, Bicyclelegs?
Great, Tom. It's always a pleasure to come on Curlis Mania and do one of these rather wonderful album battles.
Yes, yes, and it's a pleasure to have you back. You're always welcome here, and we are here to talk about two amazing records by David Bowie. We have Hunky Dory from 1971 and Ziggy Stardust from 1972. Two absolute classics in a catalog that has full is chock full of classics. Honestly, to be honest,
Yeah.
I'm a massive Bowie fan. How about you? When did you? Always have to ask. Start. This is my new starting question: is when were you first introduced to these records?
Yeah.
Did you go backwards with Bowie, or were you on? Did you start early with his catalog?
Yeah, I did start pretty early. Like when I was a sort of early teenager, I got two of his albums. I got Ziggy Stardust and I got Scary Monsters,
Ooh, wow,
probably when I was about 12 years old. So
great start.
So early 80s, and I've been a huge Bowie fan ever since. And of course, just after that was when Let's Dance came out, and he became so massive
Yeah.
for a period of time there.
Hmm.
So it was a great time to become a Bowie fan, because he was just about to become like the biggest star in town. Would love to have gone and seen him on the Serious Moonlight tour, but my parents said I was too young.
Yeah.
So, and he was playing in a like football stadium, when he
Yeah.
came to Australia. And yeah, so I've been intrigued by his career ever since, and have all his albums, love all his albums. And as I was telling you off camera, I actually have like a little tradition in my house where every January is Bowie month, because it was the month that he was born and it was the month that he passed away. So I play nothing but Bowie in the car, and I do a Bowie show every year on the channel. And yeah, just it's my month to celebrate the man and his genius.
Oh, I absolutely love that, and I might have to like copy that. I might start doing the same. I might have to make January Bowie month in our house as well. But David Bowie is an artist for the ages. I mean, there's no question about it. He's I just said it's off as well off camera earlier before we started. I said, Bowie is just for me when I think of pure artistry, I think of David Bowie because
Yeah,
he really he did whatever he wanted and he did it he did so many things well. I mean, of course he had ups and downs in his career. Everyone does, especially when they do that many records. But his run in the 70s is like really kind of unprecedented, honestly. Um, it's
yeah,
just unbelievable, right? I mean, he did barely put a foot wrong in the 70s,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So so this is some people would say these two records is where the genius began, or where the the unbelievable records started.
Yeah,
Because I do love Man Who Sold the World as well. I mean, I actually think Space Oddity has its charms as well. But you can say that Hunky Dory was sort of a step up. Would
yes.
you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a bit of a change for him too. He's building the band that would become the Spiders from Mars. He's working with Ken Scott for the first time, who he would work with for the next few records. Ken Scott, great producer. He started off as an engineer with the Beatles. So, the perfect training ground for any producer really is working with the Beatles, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And then, he would go on to produce a bunch of other artists, including, like, I think probably most famously, he did a number of records with Supertramp,
That's right.
starting with
Yes.
Crime of the Century.
Hmm.
So he also produced one of my absolute favorite Devo records, which is Duty Now for the Future.
Oh, I
So
did not know that. That's new for me.
yeah,
Wow. Okay. There you go.
So
That's yeah, interesting.
yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of beginnings in a way for Bowie with this one. First band, first time with basically the Spiders from Mars, and first record with Ken Scott. Um, and yeah, I mean, he definitely takes his songwriting, I think, a step up from where it had been on the 1969 album and on Man Who Sold the World.
Oh, absolutely. I think that he's finding his way a little bit. I mean, and also I have to mention before I forget, my wife and I made my first visit to London last year,
Oh, okay.
and we were walking in Soho, and during like a Beatles tour, we did like a Beatles tour, and they stopped at Trident Studios,
Mm.
and it's like you kind of walk, all of a sudden you stumble on it, like, oh, there it is. It's like right across the street, and it's sort of nondescript, and but then there's a big um like a circular something on the wall on the
Oh,
outside,
like those blue plaques?
like a plaque, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And it says something about David Bowie recorded Ziggy Stardust here. Uh,
Mm.
or something. Hunky, I think they may even mention Hunky Dory, said Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust or something like that. And I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, there's a plaque on the wall
Mm.
talking about this." Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was recorded at Trident Studios with Ken Scott, who's just a brilliant engineer, brilliant producer. Like you said, I mean, you listen to something like Crime of the Century, it's like that album is. I remember friends of mine saying they would test their stereo systems with Crime of the Century.
Mm.
Such a great sounding album. So what is your general take on Hunky Dory? I mean, it seems to me like he does a lot of piano based songs.
Yeah. There's a lot of piano on this album, most of it played by Rick Wakeman.
Yeah.
So, great piano player. This is just before he joined Yes. In fact, when we get to Ziggy Stardust, there'll be a little story to tell about Rick Wakeman and Yes. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, he plays a lot of beautiful piano on this album, but also you've got some really great string arrangements on this album done by Mick Ronson.
Yes. Yes.
Because on the albums beforehand, Bowie had been working with Tony Visconti, of course, who he would come back and work with many times in his career.
Hmm.
And when he worked with Tony Visconti, if he needed string arrangements, Tony Visconti would do them because he was a brilliant arranger in his own right. But he didn't have Tony Visconti this time. And Ken Scott was, a pure engineer. He wasn't really a musician. So he couldn't do arrangements the way a Tony Visconti or a George Martin or whatever could.
Hmm.
So Mick Ronson did the string arrangements on this album, and they're sumptuous. They're beautiful. But what I really love about this album is there's so much variety on this album. Like as we go through the tracks, I think we'll find, there's so many different styles of music that Bowie sort of dips his toe into on this album, and it just gives this album a real eclecticism, which I think I really love.
I I couldn't agree more. I love how eclectic it is, and you're not kidding. It's all over the place. There's no doubt about it. It starts amazingly with Changes, which is a song that um, I never get tired of.
Mm,
I just love it to I love this song and I never get sick of it. I've heard it a million times. I remember hearing it on Changes One. That was the first thing that I owned was the Changes One compilation. And when I came back to this record, I didn't for a long time I didn't know how great this album was. It took me a while
yeah.
to get there. And once I got it, I said, "Oh my God, I've been missing out." But
Mm.
changes still really stands out as an opener. What do you think?
Absolutely. And it's funny because it is one of Bowie's most well-known songs, but it wasn't really a hit at the time. It didn't like it.
Oh.
I think it got in the very lower reaches of the charts in the UK, sort of like in the 50s or 60s.
Hmm.
And it's only later on that it's really, became a radio staple and all that sort of thing. It's a great song. It's got a wonderful string arrangement. It's got this wonderful, I always loved that boom, 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 boom,
Boom,
boom,
boom.
and
Yes.
but you get that momentum on that, and then it
And
stops,
it stops.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
he sings the first verse, and it's really still, and then it builds up again into the chorus,
Yes.
and that stuttery ch changes. So yeah, it's a brilliant single, and it doesn't outstay its welcome either. It's like 2.5 minutes long,
Yeah.
and it's the perfect pop song in a lot of ways, but very much Bowie-esque. It's got these
Mhm.
little quirks, these little twinges that I don't think any other artist would put in a song like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, just the fact that was going to mention the same exact thing that it does that dun 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 dun, dun, and it's kind of you're kind of like yeah you're getting going along and all of a sudden it just it kind of
yeah.
fades out stops for a minute and then he goes like slowly into the vocal. It's like oh that is such a cool touch, you
Mm,
know. Love that. And the lyric the vocals. I mean his vocals all over this record are fantastic. I mean,
yes.
you know, he just is what a singer. What a singer. And
Yeah.
he has so much subtlety and force, and he doesn't even sound like he's even trying really, but it's just that's how good of a singer he was. But I also love the lyrics on this song. I can't go by it without saying I love the lyrics. I think they're kind of
Mm,
timeless, you know. Um,
yes. I always think of the film Breakfast Club too,
mhm.
because they used a quote from this song at the beginning of the film as
Yes.
the kids are going into the school. There's the quote, and these children that you spit on as you try to change their world are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware what they're going through, you know, and yeah, so I always think of the film Breakfast Club too, because I was a teenager when that film came out, so I was the perfect target audience for that movie. So
Oh, same here. Same here. I mean, we're roughly the same age. I had the same
yeah,
experiences. Breakfast Club was a great, cool movie at the time, you know. And it made it even all the more cooler because John Hughes used to sprinkle music throughout like hot, cool music, not just like what was popular. It was like sort of like the cool music.
mm,
Um, anyway, he was a music fan, there's no doubt.
yeah,
But yeah, I Changes is just fantastic. Love that song to death. And then he follows it up with "Oh You Pretty Things," which is very extremely catchy.
mm,
I love this song too. It reminds me of my daughters because I used to play this album pretty much in the car when they were growing up. I played a lot of Bowie, and they loved this song. Like they would sing along to this song. And even
yeah,
when they were little, like they would be like, oh, you pretty, don't you know you drive. It's just they loved it. They thought it was great. And I just remember that always hits me, you
yeah.
know.
I can't imagine they had any idea what the lyrics were about, though.
No, no, I don't think that they no idea. No idea. And I didn't
All
elaborate.
all this idea about creating a race of Superman and that sort of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, all a
Yeah,
bit sort of
yeah, we were
sci-fi
singing
and
along, gotta make way for the homo superior. It's like
yeah.
I don't know what we're talking about here.
But I was actually today years old. I was doing a little reading, getting ready for the show this morning because it's morning my time, and I didn't realize that this song was actually written and released. It was released by Peter Noone first.
Oh.
It was his debut solo single. Peter Noone was the lead singer of the band Herman's Hermits.
Right.
And yeah, he released this song as a single and it got to like number 12 on the charts in the UK. So it was,
Okay.
it was basically the first success that Bowie had had since the Space Oddity single had been a hit
Right.
for him.
Right. Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so I only just learned that today that this was actually first recorded by someone else, by Peter Noone from
Wow, I
Herman's
didn't know that
Hermits.
either. That's
So
a new one for me as well. So it was yeah, because really at this point, that's a great point. I should point that out as well that, you're right. Up to this point, he was still known as the one-hit wonder. Space Oddity was his only hit.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And this was his what, fourth album by this stage, and he's still, like Space Oddity was a hit, but the album wasn't.
Right.
Um, he I think he was onto his third record label by this stage with RCA because he
Yeah.
started off at Decca and then he was on Mercury and now he's on RCA. So,
Mhm.
so he's definitely a struggling artist at this point.
Yes.
And this album started to do some things, but it wasn't until, we get into Ziggy Stardust that obviously was the one that really broke Bowie as a major act.
Mhm.
But yeah, Oh You Pretty Things is a great song, really catchy, and as you say, and perfect as a single. But as we, it wasn't a Bowie single; it was somebody else's single. So
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if he gave it away pre the album or post or what. And I don't know. I guess
yeah,
we.
he did. It was like 1970. It was earlier in 1971 that Peter Noon's version came out.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
So
Um, okay. So we move on to eight-line poem, which is sort of like I always say it's almost like the intro to Life on Mars.
I
Uh,
always, well, it's funny you say that because I kind of think of it as the coda to Oh You Pretty Things.
oh,
So,
okay. I can
um,
take a look at it
but
both.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting song. It is this basically just this little poem that he wrote set to almost this sort of country and western twang,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's
Yes.
like, talking about these different styles of music that he was doing. Here's Bowie doing sort of country and western music before he
Yeah.
gets into, something completely different again. Um, it's an interesting song, but it does feel like a bridge, as it were, between Oh You Pretty Things and Life on Mars.
Yes. Yes. I mean, because Life on Mars, another absolutely brilliant song, um, in my opinion. It was apparently inspired by Frank Sinatra, or maybe I think it was maybe I'd read that he was going to give it to Frank Sinatra or something like that.
Yeah, I believe the story was that Bowie was doing some writing of lyrics to like tunes that came from other countries in Europe.
Hmm.
Like they would get these songs that were hit in Italy or Spain or somewhere like that, and they would give them to songwriters to write English lyrics for.
Hmm.
And one of the songs Bowie wrote some lyrics for, and it got rejected. And it ended up someone else wrote lyrics for it, a guy called Paul Anka, and it turned out to be the song My Way.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that was the inspiration for this song, is that Bowie started playing the chords for My Way.
Hmm.
If you start, if you listen to the beginning of the chord sequence of this song, it's very similar to My Way.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
then it takes this, huge left turn. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
he's doing this beautiful, and again, might be some of Rick Wakeman's best piano playing on any record.
Chef's kiss.
It starts off just gorgeous, playing, and Bowie singing this rather bizarre lyric, which I've never quite been able to fully wrap my head around. It's kind of surreal imagery, but it's gorgeous,
Hmm.
you know, and and then it gets to this part where there's this sudden dramatic turn, the boom,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
orchestra comes in, and that's where the chord progression takes this complete left turn
Hmm.
because it's not the chord you would expect to come in that chord
Not at
progression.
all. No. No.
And then it just goes from there. It just soars off into the stratosphere as the orchestra comes in, and Bowie sings some of the highest vocals I think he's ever done on a record. You know, when he's singing the "Is There Life on Mars?" He's just
Ah,
singing,
yeah.
just going for the stratosphere.
And
Um,
hitting it and hitting it. It's unbelievable, unreal.
I have been on record as saying this is my favorite Bowie song,
Hmm.
and it's hard to know what would compete with it. It's just such a masterclass of songwriting, of production, of arrangement. and of performance. You know, it's got
Yes.
all those elements just absolutely perfect, baked in a little pie. It was released as a single a couple of years later when Ziggy Stardust had taken off, and it became a massive, massive hit. I think it got to number 3 on the UK charts,
Hmm.
and rightly so. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
No other way of.
Stone cold masterpiece, no question. No question. I get goosebumps when I hear that's when the strings kick in and he does that vocal at the end.
Mm,
It just gets me every time. I just there's just it's so majestic, and the string arrangement is absolutely perfect for the song. And like you said, it starts out so basic and mellow, and and I sing the lyrics like you said. I sing the lyrics and I don't understand what I'm singing, but Mickey Mouse is growing up a cow, and
mm.
Lennon's on sale again, and all these. I mean, it's got like little images. It seems like it's just cut, like maybe a cut up or something. He just put a bunch of words together, but it works. It
Yeah.
works.
I don't know why, but the lyric that always catches my ear every time is in the chorus, and it's the line, "Take a look at that lawman beating up the wrong guy."
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I
but
just that chorus is just it's like a chorus everybody wishes they would have written. It's so
mm,
amazing. Unbelievable masterpiece. We've I don't know what else to say. So we got to move on to Kooks, which is sort of like a little bouncy number, sort of a bouncy poppy number about his children, about his child.
yeah,
For, yeah, for Zoe. Is that right? I don't,
that's yeah. I mean, these days he goes by his name Duncan Jones.
yes, yes.
But yes, but they called him Zoe at the time, Zoe Bowie.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, he was just a toddler at the time, and it's musically, I feel like this kind of harkens back to his debut album from
Yes,
1967.
yes,
You
exactly.
know, it has
Yeah.
that
Music
kind
hall
of,
feel. Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And it's bouncy, it's bright. It's a look, if I was going to have any criticisms, I would say this song's a little slight,
Right.
but other than that, I think it comes after it's well sequenced album, because I think it comes perfectly after Life on Mars, is to have something a little light and bouncy and a little less cerebral, as it were,
Yes.
something that's a little, you don't have to think so hard about.
Right. And the lyric makes perfect actually makes sense. It's sort of heartwarming. It's sort of a heartwarming song about his domestic life at the time, but I love how he says, if will you stay in my lover's story? If you stay, you won't be sorry. Because we believe in you.
Mm,
And it's kind of like, you know, we're we're different. We're different people, but we still love you to death, and you're gonna do well with our family. It kind of gets me. It's very heartfelt.
yes, it's very sweet.
Yeah. So, but you're right. As musically, it's not as it feels a little bit on the light end of things. But
Mm,
and it's a great call. I never thought of that. That it's sort of a harken back to his first record. I never really thought of
yeah.
that, but that's exactly right. Um, so then, but maybe this is way, like you said, sequencing, thinking in the sequencing mind.
Mm,
Maybe this was a light way to get to quicksand, which is which is pretty heavy actually. So
yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
What's your thoughts on Quicksand? I think it's a great track.
Oh, it's epic. It's super, super dramatic, but it's also lyrically, it's kind of a downer,
Yes, it
because the
is.
chorus is, "Don't believe in yourself, don't deceive with belief. Knowledge comes with death's release." I mean,
Yeah,
it's definitely, Bowie's in a dark place when
not
he's writing
uplifting.
this. Yeah. But musically, it's just, again, you've got this wonderful string arrangement uh from Mick Ronson, and really dramatic, cinematic even, I would
Yes,
say.
yes, that's it. That's the
And
word.
it's a great way to close out side 1 of the record.
Mhm. you can almost hear it at the end of a movie or something. That's a great
Yeah.
cinematic. It's a great way to say. Like, but that chorus is another amazing chorus. I just oof, and he sings it so well again. It's the vocals unparalleled with his. He's hitting those high notes and he
Mm,
oh, it's just so well done. So and
yeah.
like you said, the string arrangement again, Mick Ronson's killing it on that too. It's just
Yeah.
oof. What a side one. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
oh, incredible. So we move on to side two with Fill Your Heart, which again, this feels a little like a music hall again.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
this is a cover version.
it's a
It's a
cover,
song by
right?
a
It's a
guy
cover.
called
Yeah.
Biff Rose.
Yeah.
And I'm not familiar with the original. I don't think I've ever heard it. Well, if I have, I don't remember ever hearing it anyway. But again, sequencing thing, starting off side two, you've come off this huge sort of emotional commitment with quicksand. And Fill Your Heart is kind of a bit of a palate cleanser again, you
Hmm.
know. Um, and then, and then it leads into, the next three songs, which are all sort of character studies.
Yes.
So
Yes. Andy
so it's
Warhol.
a great way to, yeah, Andy Warhol, that song. And the other thing too is that on side two, there's not a lot of drums on side two. Like there's no drums on Fill Your Heart.
Hmm.
There's on Andy Warhol, there's just a little bit, there's this sort of percussion, there's bang, bing, 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 but there's no actual drums.
Okay. I never thought of
And then
those.
when we get to the end of the record with the Bewlay brothers, there's no drums on that either.
Huh. Okay.
So
Interesting.
so
I
it's
never noticed that. I have to listen to that again. That's interesting.
yeah. But Andy Warhol, it's a great character study.
Oh yeah.
Taking the guy who turned everything into art and basically turning him into a piece of art.
Hmm.
That you know, Andy Warhol looks and scream, hang him on my wall, you know.
Yes. Can't tell them apart at all.
Yeah, where does Andy Warhol end and his art start? And that's the kind of the idea of the song. Apparently, though, David Bowie got to meet Andy Warhol around this time and played him the song, and apparently Andy didn't like it. So, which
Or
was a bit of a disappointment
maybe he was
to
embarrassed or something too. You never know, right?
yeah.
Who knows?
But yeah. But that was a bit of a disappointment for David. But he did get to make a little short film with Andy Warhol and stuff. And yeah.
And hung out
So
in New
no,
York
it's
with.
a great character study. And it's, just these two acoustic guitars basically, and this percussion, this bing, 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 you
Mhm.
know. You've got both Bowie and Mick Ronson playing acoustic, Mick Ronson's doing all the fancy diddle 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 dee,
Do. Yeah.
and Bowie's just sort of strumming his 12 string, fervently in the background,
Hmm.
um, and just singing up a storm again.
Again.
It's
Yeah.
a great vocal, and it's one of my favorite songs on the album because I
Yeah.
love the minimalism of it. There's not a lot to this. There isn't a big string arrangement. There isn't lots of guitars and pianos and all this sort of thing. It's just like these two very insistent acoustic guitars and this percussion keeping the
Yes.
beat.
Yes. Yes. And
And
I
then
love
Bowie's voice.
the sort of the cut up at the beginning that they probably did on purpose to make it kind of artsy. And
Yeah,
you hear the talking and the kind of false start or whatever it was, and then they kind of laugh and then they go into it. And it's like kind of like it's artsy, that way. And you're right. I love that it's just two acoustic guitars essentially. And they're just stridently playing acoustic. And like you said, Mick's doing the runs. It sounds fantastic. I mean, for like you said, for two acoustic guitars and a little bit of percussion, it sounds very full.
yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
love the arrangement.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we move into song for again, another character, like you said, another character sketch, a song for Bob Dylan. Um, and I always thought this one kind of sounded like could be like a Mott the Hoople song or something. Uh,
Yes.
you know, here's a song about Zimmerman. It's just the way he delivers the vocal, and it's sort of kind of a laid back vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and of course, David Bowie gave Mott the Hoople their biggest hit with All
Yes,
the Young Dudes.
exactly,
So
exactly.
there's that definite connection there. But
Hmm.
yeah, I agree with you. It's a great lyric. It definitely has a bit of Dylan flavor to the lyric too, which I really like.
Yes, it does.
It's like he's channeling Bob Dylan a little bit. But
Hmm.
musically, as you say, it's more sort of Mott the Hoople or, early glam rather than sounding like Dylan.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Like I said, it's kind of I agree with you that it's sort of like this, those two songs, Warhol and Dylan, kind of feel like of a piece. Like he wrote a couple songs in to, in to honor these great artists or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and Mick Ronson plays some great lead guitar, by the way, on this too.
Mm.
I love it. But then we get to Queen Bitch, which is kind of like the Velvet Underground tribute.
Yes. Yeah, very much Velvet Underground Lou Reed kind of tribute. And of course, Bowie and Mick Ronson would go on the next year to produce, that wonderful, wonderful Lou Reed album.
Yes.
Um,
Transformer.
which yeah, that's the one. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of the name of it
Yeah.
for some reason, but
Mhm.
um, which is a wonderful record as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love this. This is pure glam rock, dirty and you know, it's definitely it gives you that connection that the Velvet Underground really were an inspiration to the glam rock movement that was coming. Because
Yeah.
the glam rock movement wasn't quite here yet. This is kind of a precursor to it, as it were.
Hmm.
And it was just starting maybe in 1971 because you were starting to get T-Rex and that sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, the Velvet Underground were definitely a big inspiration to the glam rock movement, musically, if not visually. And, in turn, they would influence Lou Reed in, his sort of early to mid 70s records
Hmm.
and in the way that Lou Reed presented himself because he started to present himself very glam,
Oh,
during
yes.
around that sort of Transformer and that sort of thing. So there's kind of that interchange between the two artists, which I really think is kind of cool. But it's a great lyric too. It kind of again, kind of channeling Lou Reed, sort of a character study of these people on the streets and that sort of thing, and
Hmm.
their style and all that sort of thing. So, I always love the line with the bippity boppity hat. I don't know, that always tickles me every time. So yeah,
Oh, I could do better than that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I love this. I love this track. I mean, he's really channeling Velvet Underground, but he's doing it his own way. And
yeah,
it's such a rocking track. I mean, it's probably I mean, it's funny because everything so far has been pretty singer-songwriter ish. I mean,
yes,
with touches, with added things to it, but this feels more like a band playing in a room. This is
yeah.
kind of a rockin' song with a band playing, and this is kind of the first taste you get for maybe what's coming next.
Yeah, I was about to say that. This definitely is harkens a little bit to where Bowie was going to go with the next record.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, yeah, but you're right. I love the bippity boppity hat, and she's known in the Darkest Club for sticking a head up a dame's. I don't know what.
mm,
I don't know. Who knows what he's talking about? But I think he's trying to, like you said, you already said it. He's channeling the Lou Reed, like sort of underground of the city, trying to get these dark characters, sketchy characters, kind of thing going on.
yeah,
But I love it. I love it to death. Queen Bitch is one of my. I love it. It's great.
mm,
And then we end the record with oh another epic track of sorts. It's sort of
yeah.
cinematic again. Uh, the is it Bewley Brothers? But how do you say it?
Beulah Brothers, I
Bewley.
think it is. Yeah. Um, Yeah, it's a great song. And as you say, it's very dramatic. And again, go back and listen to it. There are no drums on this song.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know, I was
Yeah.
I was playing this one last time just before we came on air, like about an hour before we started recording. And yeah, it's got these sort of eerie guitars, Mick Ronson's doing almost sort of sound effects with his guitars,
Are they
you
backward?
know.
It sounds like they could be backwards at times. I don't know.
Mm.
I'm not positive about that, but
But yeah, I mean it's a great song. And again, this you talk about character studies. He's talking about these Bewlay brothers and kind of their exploits and their kind of, seedy underground kind of thing that they're going through. And
mhm.
um yeah, it's a great way to close out the album. It's definitely not it's not the way you necessarily expect an album to close out, because you often expect an album, especially in sort of the 60s and the early 70s, sort of to close out with a banger, you
Right.
know,
Right. Yeah.
whereas this is definitely not that. It's dark and it's introspective, and as I say, there's no drums on it, so it doesn't have a pulse. It's
Right.
not a fast song. It's quite slow. As you said, it's dramatic. I think it's a great way to close out an album, but it's not a stereotypical way, shall we say, to close out an
Yes.
album.
Absolutely. No, and I'm with you. I really enjoy it as a closer, but it's not your it's not it's definitely not a typical. I mean, Bowie didn't do anything typically at this time in his career. And it's which I love. That's what I love about him. But this is just, but I still love oh, we were gone. I mean, again, the
Mm,
vocal delivery on this entire record is just abs A plus,
yeah,
A plus. Um, so that's Hunky Dory. We just went through every track, and that's the record right there. There he is in
yeah,
1971. Um, and also the cover, I love the cover to death as well. And wasn't this
yeah,
inspired by an old photograph, right, of a famous movie star, German movie star or something?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Might have even been like Marlene Dietrich or someone like
that's it.
that.
That's it. That's what it, yeah, I was trying to find the name. That's it. Yep. So it's just he's already starting the androgyny thing where it's like, is this a woman or a man? You can't really
Mm.
tell. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, he kind of started that with the UK cover of Man Who Sold the World, because he's wearing that sort of, dress,
that's right.
sort of
That's
the
right.
man dress, as
The
it
man
were.
dress. Yeah, with the cards all over the place. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So so we move on to the next record, and wow, is this a banger? I mean, this is really when
yeah,
this is where he just goes into the stratosphere as an artist, as a rock
yeah,
star. He becomes a rock star with this record, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
And I apparently, if I remember right, he said to Ken Scott, "You're not going to like the next album," or
Mm.
something to that effect, like it's going to be too heavy for you.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm trying to get it in focus. There we go. That's better.
I think
Um,
he was wrong about that, though. I think Ken Scott does think of this record pretty fondly. So,
yes, yes. Well, I
but
remember looking at the back cover of this when I was younger because my sister had
mm,
this record when I was growing up, and so I knew this album pretty when I was young. I probably 7 or 8 years old listening to this album. But I remember
yeah,
looking at the back cover and being like, "Who is this guy? Like he's so weird looking. Like he's
yeah.
just bizarre, you know?" Like, what is he wearing and where is he standing? Like, what is that? Like, I didn't realize that's probably a telephone booth, right? I don't know.
I don't know if it's a telephone booth, but it's something like that. I don't know, but
Or maybe not. Maybe it's just
yeah,
like the entrance to a house or something. I don't know.
yeah,
But yeah, I just remember being like, you know how back in the day it was pre-internet, pre-everything. All you had was the album cover, and you would just stare at it and go, this is
yeah,
intriguing, you know?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. And also the title, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Like, what? Like the whole thing just seemed
Mm,
very intriguing.
yes, absolutely. And this was, as I say, one of the two Bowie records I owned first when I was sort of like 11, 12 years old. and I've owned a copy of it ever since. So, it's definitely an album that's near and dear to my heart.
Mhm. Oh yeah. No, same here. There's a sentimental I could
Yeah.
say it already. There's already a sentimental
But
tie to this record already.
but I
But
will definitely say this, even though you've got the same production team, you've got basically the same band, you don't have Rick Wakeman, except I think he plays uncredited, he plays some harpsichord on It Ain't Easy. But other than that, this was what I was sort of alluding to earlier. He was given a choice at this stage, Rick Wakeman, whether he wanted to become one of the spiders from Mars or whether he wanted to join Yes.
okay. Okay.
And he ended up joining Yes because he felt like he would have more ability to contribute musically, you know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
actually contribute writing and that sort of thing. And
Yes.
that's what he wanted to do. So he ended up going with Yes. So yeah, I mean, he had the chance to be one of the spiders from Mars and turned it down.
Yeah,
But
didn't
you
I think
have most,
Bowie invited him on tour or something, like saying, "Do you want to go on?"
yeah,
Yeah.
but you have the rest of the band there. You have, Terry Boulder and yeah,
Mhm.
and Mick Ronson and Woody. So you've got the same musicians basically that you had on Hunky Dory. You've got the same producer as you had on Hunky Dory. You get a completely different record,
It's so true. It's so true. It's the
you
same,
know?
the ingredients are the same, but you don't get the same meal.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
This album, the songs are more concise. They're definitely, there's the eclecticism isn't there. This is an album, this is a concept album, so it's going for a definite feel musically.
Hmm.
So there isn't the room to go off on these tangents. You can't really do some country and western or some, music hall or whatever on this album. It has to be a bit more focused because it's telling a story.
Right.
So, and that's what you get with this album. It's definitely much more of a rock album than Hunky Dory is,
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's still some
you know.
songwriter things in here, but it's filtered through a rock band.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that does carry over from Hunky Dory is the cinematic quality, especially on a song like 5 Years that opens the album,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
really cinematic. And, again, it's kind of this song's setting the stage. It's like an establishing shot, as if you like, if it was a film.
Yes.
This is kind of giving you the background idea of where this character, Ziggy Stardust, is going to fit into this story.
Yes.
And because we don't get introduced to Ziggy until a couple of songs in, but um, this is very much stage setting, but it's very cinematic, it's very dramatic, and yeah, I mean, I love it to bits.
Oh God, 5 years mesmerized me as a kid, and it still mesmerizes me. Like, and your description of it's a setting shot, is absolutely perfect. I mean, it's almost like the beginning of a movie where they don't start the action yet, and they're kind of doing a long shot of something. And when they start the drums by themselves, just come in,
Hmm.
just by themselves, and it takes a while, and then all of a sudden, finally, one piano chord hits, and he says, "Pushing through the market square," and it's like it's so bare, like the beginning of it's so bare, and then all the mothers
Hmm.
sighing, 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 and it start, and it just does the repeat on the vocal. It's oh, and it just slowly builds, and then by the end, he's screaming, five
Yeah.
hands. It's just like, oh, it's just so good. It's so
Yeah.
good.
And like the piano on this record is mostly played by Mick Ronson. So
Oh, okay.
Um,
All right.
so it's a lot less ornate than the piano that you get on Hunky Dory, which was played by Rick Wakeman.
Mhm.
So, but it's, the piano on this song is very stately. It's just these bare chords. Um, but it suits the song so well.
Yes, and it's just the idea of somebody on the news saying, "We've got 5 years, and we know
Mm,
this. This is all we've got." So, it just I just think it's a brilliant lyric and a brilliant arrangement, and I just what a great way to start the record.
yeah,
Um, and then we head into Soul Love, which is quite a switch, from that.
yeah, absolutely.
Suddenly,
It's
we're in
got this.
jaunty territory that do 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 do, you know?
Well, as the title suggests, you've got a bit of a soul feeling going on. You've got
Right.
these congas and these finger snaps um and Bowie playing his saxophone, which he does on Hunky Dory as well. And I love it when Bowie plays saxophone because
Love it.
he's
Yes.
not the most like he's not Charlie Parker,
Right.
and he's not trying to be. You
Right.
know, there's a story from much later on when he was doing Black Tie White Noise with Nile Rodgers, and he was playing all the sax on that album too. And Nile Rodgers was keeping making him do take after take after take of the saxophone parts
Mhm.
until Nile suddenly realized, wait, Bowie actually wants it to sound like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
wants it to have that kind of rough edge to it, that kind of unpolished,
Yes.
uh, you know, thing to it, which I don't think Niall was expecting. But yeah, I mean, I like that about Bowie's when he plays sax on his
I
records.
do too. I
Is
think
it?
it's really super charming. I love it.
Mm,
Yeah.
but it's a great song. But to me, this as much as I love Soul Love, to me, it's setting up the stage for the next couple of songs.
Yes.
And I mean, Moon Age Daydream, my goodness,
Oh, man. The
you know,
best. I mean, I
there's
love
a,
comes in with power chords, you know?
yeah. And this is our introduction to Ziggy Stardust. This is
Yeah.
him announcing himself, as it were.
Right.
Um, I'm an alligator, I'm a mama papa waiting for you, I'm a space invader, you know. So he's, showing that he's from outer space and, that sort of thing. But yeah, this song's just great. It's crunchy, but then it's got these sumptuous strings on top of it as well. So it's a really great sort of juxtaposition. And the way Bowie delivers the line, freak out in a moon age daydream. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
just love that to bits.
I just love keep your electric eye on me. I mean, I just think that,
Yeah.
oh, another another just crushing chorus. I ever when I'm in the car listening to this, I'm like singing at the top of my lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, when he does the freak out, and oh yeah, it's like I just
Yeah.
amazing. It's I mean, this is like glam rock, like personified,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely. And then you get the wonderful single Starman.
Oh my
This
God.
is one of the first Bowie songs I think I ever heard. Um, in as much as when I got this record when I was sort of 11, 12 years old, I don't think I'd ever heard, this particular Bowie album. Like, nobody I knew owned it. I'd never heard the whole thing on the radio, that sort of thing. But when I played it, I have this memory of when I played this record for the first time. When Starman came on, I was like, I know this song. I've heard this before. I've heard this on the radio or whatever.
Right.
And just such a great song. This one kind of does a little harken back to Hunky Dory because you've got those acoustic guitars going in this one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
but it's a simpler song than anything on Hunky Dory. It's a
Yes.
really tightly written song. And, I think it was written to be a single and it succeeded, majestically as a single. Made a big hit for Bowie and, made him a superstar. And,
Oh, yeah. I mean, he played
you
it on
know,
Top of the Pops, right? Did you say that already?
yeah, absolutely. With putting his arm around Mick Ronson, which apparently was pretty controversial at the time for two dudes to be doing that sort of thing on TV.
Well, there's two dudes that kind of look pretty effeminate, and then he puts his arm around him, and it's like, oh boy, it's like they're like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
But it made an impression. It made an impression. That's what he wanted to do. He made an impression, and it's an undeniable, as you're mentioning, it's an undeniable song. I mean, it's like hooks galore. I mean, there's hooks all over the song, and it's so memorable. When you could hear it once and be like, it sticks in your head,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Just
So brilliant songwriting.
absolutely. And then
And
we
like
get the
you said, I
cover
never
on the
thought of this, but
album.
you're right. It kind of has a hunky dory feel to it. I didn't really.
Yeah,
It kind of does. Uh,
yeah,
so, but then it goes into the end of side one, which is "It Ain't Easy."
yeah, which is the cover on the album.
Right.
And it's a great choice of a song,
Yeah.
Again, I'm not really familiar with the original. I can't remember off the top of my head who did the original. I think it was the songwriter. So
Okay.
that would be, hold on. Oh yeah, is like Roger Davies or something like that. I almost thought he was Ray Davies, but no, it's
Okay.
nothing to do with the Kinks.
Right. Right.
But it's a great choice for this album because it kind of has this apocalyptic feel to it, the lyric,
Hmm.
it ain't easy to get to heaven when you're going down.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Um, and I think musically it fits in really well with the album too, because it's a fairly simple, concise song. It's not even 3 minutes long on the album. It's a great side closer. Because we're about to really kick into gear on side two, as far as the plot goes.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yes.
so
Yeah.
it's a great way to end side one. I really, really like it. Bowie always chose really great songs to cover.
Yes, he did, and he always made it his own. He would
Mm,
always put it, like you said, always had his little twist on it, and he would make it his own. And I love I love how epic it is with the and Mick Ronson's
mm.
playing some great lead guitar on it as well. Um, but you're right, it kind of sets up side two, which kind of really starts digging into the concept of Ziggy Stardust and his band with
Yeah,
Ladies. It starts out side
yeah.
two.
Well,
Um,
yeah, Lady Stardust we're getting into the androgyny here and that sort of thing because, Ziggy is Lady Stardust,
right. Yeah.
So,
People stared at the
um,
makeup on his face is the first line. Yeah. So,
mm,
hmm.
yeah, I mean, and this is one of those great sort of what I would call a glam rock ballad in a way, you
Yes.
know. This has got some beautiful piano playing from uh Mick Ronson on it. Almost Rick Wakeman worthy. It's some really lovely piano on this song.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, and we're talking about the band, the band was all together and, you know, but it was also saying something wasn't quite right, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And he sang all night
Yeah.
long. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's a kind of a character study of Ziggy at this point. We're kind of really
Yeah,
getting into it now.
absolutely.
Yep.
But yeah, that sort of androgyny though, really challenging thing in 1972 for the general public.
Oh yeah. I mean,
It was
yeah.
it
It
was
was on the cutting edge.
ahead of its time. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, he was people were I mean, yeah, it was unreal at the time. And um but yeah, what a great another great song. I'm repeating myself over and over, but just another
Mm,
fantastic song and well written, and what a another great hooky kind of chorus. And I every whenever I put this, I'm repeating myself here, but whenever I put this on, I'm always singing along. If I mean, that's the whole, I know all the songs by heart because they're so hooky and they're so memorable. I mean,
yeah,
in this one, because he was all right, the band was all
yeah,
together. It's just another great moment. It's like moment after moment on this album of just greatness.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
then I
yeah, that's the big difference between this album and Hunky Dory, isn't it? Because these are concise. A lot of these are pop songs.
yeah,
They're meant to be hooky, they're meant to be sing along, which I don't think a lot of the material on Hunky Dory was going for that. It was going for a more expansive kind of sound.
yes,
And
yes.
so
You're
that's
not
why
singing,
there is
not really singing along to Quicksand as much.
no, no.
So then it goes into Star, which is another
Yeah,
fantastic. I mean, not even 3 minutes, just concise, just hit you, and go.
yeah.
You
And it's got
know,
those pumping piano chords and then the guitar on top of it. And
really driving,
yeah,
really driving.
yeah, I mean, this song and the next song, Hang On to Yourself, to me kind of flow together into one big piece. That you're
Yeah,
really getting caught up in the momentum of where this album is taking you with Star. And then, it's really great, as you say, concise rock and song. And then it gets into Hang On to Yourself, which is almost that, but more so,
almost on steroids.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Hang On to Yourself is one of the most glammy songs on this album,
Oh,
sort of
no, without a doubt.
stereotypical glam rock.
Yeah.
And I get really, this is the point in the album where I really feel like I'm on the crest of a wave and just kind of getting carried along.
Yeah.
And I love this part of the record, you know.
Oh, I do too. I'm with you because like you said, it almost feels like an airplane's taking off at this point. Because they're really rocking on these two songs in a row. Um, but I was going to say that on Star, I love how he kind of employs that thing we were talking about on Changes again, where where it's rocking, it's
Mm.
rolling forward, and then it kind of brings it back for the I could fall asleep at night as a rock and roll star.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, at the end.
at
Yeah.
the end. I love that. I love how he does that. And then Hang On to Yourself, like you said, is another like sort of left hook to the. I mean, it's just like whoa, what a great. I mean, this is a great ensemble band song. Hang On to
Mm.
Yourself. Um, it has talk about a driving, like you said, it's very much a like glam rock, hard rock almost. you know. And they're so tight
Yeah.
that groove is so tight that down
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah.
You know. Um, then we head into Ziggy Stardust, right? Ziggy played guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a famous song. Everyone covered. How many people have covered this song? Is it
Yeah,
Bauhaus?
absolutely. And it get played on the radio all the time. And I mean, it just from the very beginning, it starts off with that guitar, dun, 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 and you just know you're in for a good time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's kind of, sort of 3 minute song, which is telling almost the whole story up to this point.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of the theme song to the movie, as it were.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with Weird and Gilly and the Spiders from Mars. Um, you know,
He played it left hand.
but made it too far.
Yeah. It took it
Yeah,
all too far, but oh boy, could he play guitar. I mean, it's just so
yeah,
the lyrics are perfect.
yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
then ah, and then the end of that song, I love how it ends and then goes straight into, it's going to, it's doing that ding 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 ding, ding. And then you get the start of Suffragette City. Just
Yeah.
the way those two songs segue into each other is just a masterstroke, you know.
I agree. It's a great moment. It's almost like the song is they're sort of like putting, ding, ding. You hear these little notes, like stray notes, and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden, boom, it's right in. Um, yeah, I mean, Suffragette City, what can I say? It's
yeah.
another absolute masterpiece, in my opinion.
Well, it's probably one of my, I'm going to say, use a bit of a nerdy term here, but this is one of my favorite shuffles,
Yes.
because this is a real shuffle that dun 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 dun, dun,
Yeah.
you get that, I
Hey,
love it.
man. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I
when
just
I was a kid,
oh, go ahead.
I didn't think he was saying, "Hey man." I thought they were singing David. David, you
That's
know.
funny.
So
That's funny. You're like, wow, these guys are really calling him out. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I always loved the call and response thing. Like, I just thought that was so cool. The hey man, like it sounds like the band is yelling that, and he's like, ah, leave me
yeah,
alone. It's just I love that. I just think that's brilliant.
yeah. Oh, and I've got to share a misheard lyric from this song that a friend of my younger sister apparently heard in the chorus. Thought that he was singing the line like there's the line leave me alone because you can't afford the ticket.
Yes, yes.
Um and and you'll have to pardon my language a little bit here, but he thought that David Bowie was singing leave me alone, you're a California dickhead.
It might be a better lyric. I like that.
So I kind of sing it that way half the time when I'm listening to this record. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the absolute highlights of this album, Suffragette
That's what
City.
that was good.
Especially when you get that, when they're getting, you think the song's coming to an end and then it goes, oh, wham, bam, thank you,
Thank you, ma'am.
ma'am. And you
Yeah.
get another couple of choruses and it's just wonderful. You
Oh,
just get absolutely swept away by it.
no doubt. No doubt. I just absolutely love it's I talked about changes, never getting sick of that. I mean, I really don't get sick of any of these songs. This is another album I could just play to death and be happy, a very happy person.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? And what's funny is that what I've noticed is that you've mentioned it a few times, and now that I'm kind of looking at this again, I was looking at it before we started. To your point, you've already made this point, but I want to say it again, is that these songs are so compact.
Mm,
There's not really very long songs on this record. It's all 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I mean, 5 years is 442. But I mean, in
mm.
Age Daydream's a little longer, but generally they're pretty tight arrangements and I mean they're just very tight songs,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. There's not a lot of they've trimmed a lot of the fat, as it were. But again, I'm not saying that one is better or worse.
Right,
I think
right.
they're both great records, but they're trying to do very different things. And Bowie is such a master of songwriting that he can do the one thing that he's doing on Hunky Dory and do these sort of weird, eclectic, extended pieces and, all these different genre hopping and that sort of thing. And then he can do a record like this, which is really focused and tight and make them both brilliant records.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No question. And then after we've had all these rockers, then we get to the Time Takes a Cigarette and puts it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Um, Rock and Roll Suicide. Um,
Yeah.
so what's your take on this track?
Well, this is like the absolute cinematic ending to the movie, isn't it? To the
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
This is where it does, this harkens back a little to Hunky Dory, not so much in the, again, it's a tight, well-written, song, but it's got this big, wonderful cinematic string arrangement from Mick Ronson on it. And, it starts off quiet with the acoustic guitar and the Time Takes a Cigarette.
Mhm.
And then it builds and it builds and
Just
it
keep building.
builds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just, and then he's just howling at the end of it, you're not alone and all this sort of stuff. And then, the strings, the orchestra is just coming to an absolute crescendo at the end and then just ends on this beautiful boom, this chord.
Yeah.
It's spine tingling way to end the album.
Almost like a day in the life vibe going on here at the,
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, I mean, you're right. That vocal. Oh, I mean, I can't imagine what they were thinking when he was recording that. Like, because you're right, he's just absolutely going for it and hitting it hard. I mean, screaming almost.
yeah,
You're not alone. It's like, oh my, I mean, he is just killing it.
Mm,
Wow.
yeah, just takes your breath away. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, especially, often I would get to the end of Rock and Roll Suicide. I would like take 30 seconds to catch my breath, and then I would flip the record over and start again.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I did. I was guilty of that. Yes. Because it was so good. You're like, I want to hear it again.
Mm,
Yeah. Yep. Just incredible. What an incredible record. I mean,
yeah,
uh, and I love, like you said, I love the Rock and Roll Suicide. Perfect way to, like I never really thought of it this way, the way you framed it, that, 5 years is kind of the opening shot, and then Rock and Roll Suicide's like almost like the very end of the movie. Um,
yeah,
and then the credits roll. Like, it's almost like you could see the credits roll right after the song ends. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's incredible, an incredible song, and I love his vocal on this one, and I love the whole wonderful, like
mm,
they're doing that whole like kind of weird vibe vocal in the back, and but it works just like a charm.
yeah.
So, oh, okay, well, hold on one second. I've had a cold this whole week, so sorry about that. So this is incredible. This is one of the hardest battles I think I've ever done. I mean, this is just like we really challenged ourselves on
Yeah,
this one. Um, this is one of those, we've said this on other episodes, where it's like it just kind of depends on your mood. I mean, these in my opinion are both 5-star records in different
yeah,
ways, you know. Would you agree with that?
absolutely. It's really hard to choose between these two. I mean, what great records both of them are, you know,
Yeah.
and but so different from each other, as I say, and recorded and released within 6 months of each other. That blows my mind too.
That is a
Like,
mind blower. I actually,
like
yeah, I actually had to
pretty
look that
much,
up. I actually had to
yeah.
look up. Yep.
But pretty much as soon as he finished recording this one and it was put out, he was working on this one already.
Yes. Yep.
So just
And
an incredible.
incredible
And
work ethic.
and like I said, these are both top 10 Bowie albums for me.
Mhm.
Absolutely love them to bits. And Bowie's got a huge catalog so to say something's in your top 10 Bowie albums is high praise indeed.
Yes.
In the end though, I have to give it to Ziggy Stardust just by a hair.
Yeah.
I love this record so much.
Hmm.
It's possibly one of the simplest records that Bowie ever made.
Hmm.
Not to say it's simple, because it still has its depth and its complexity, but it's simple compared with a lot of what other things that Bowie did throughout his career. I mean, even think of what he did the very next album with Aladdin Sane. He kind of brushed it off as Ziggy Goes to America, but
Right.
he was starting to get really complex with his music again. He had what's his name? Mike Garson,
Like Garson,
the
right. Yes.
piano player who just started just putting all these beautiful ornate things onto his songs and stuff. So yeah, Ziggy Stardust it's by Bowie standards a relatively simple record, but my goodness, is it an effective record. Just
Mhm.
from beginning to end, there is no let up on how good this record is. So yeah, just by that much, I'm
Mhm.
giving it to Ziggy Stardust.
All right. I'm going to be contrarian. I'm going to say Hunky Dory by this much.
Yep.
And it's, you can't lose. I have to say it again. You can't lose, of course, with either of these. Either of these. It just depends on your mood, and the mood that I'm in right now is a hunky dory mood, which is the more, I call it, the more singer songwritery Bowie.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, um, and just the songs. Just I can't get over how great they are. And this is way more of like if you're in a rock mood, this is the album, and it's,
Mm,
there's no denying that this is an absolute classic, an absolute. I mean, it changed music almost. I mean, it was, people started
mm,
wanted to imitate this record when it came out. But I would say that this was sort of the what do you want to what am I trying to say? Like the basement or the base of, this is the foundation that made this building is
Yeah.
this, and I really think that these songs are timeless, and I love the way it's very, very eclectic and it's all over the map. And so, but it's just, again, it's just the mood I'm in right now. That's all it is.
Yep.
So, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's
Mm.
literally by an absolute
Yep.
hair. So yeah, so I'm just, feeling
Yeah.
contrarian. So I'm gonna do
Yeah,
that.
no, look, I think with these two albums, there's no such thing as a wrong answer. So,
No, there's not. There's not. There's not. There's not. So yeah, and it's interesting if you're a Bowie fan, how, following him through his catalog, um how you just, it just, I can listen to Bowie anytime, anywhere, just depending whatever I feel like. If I'm in a different frame of mind, maybe I want to listen to Heroes or Low. If I'm
mm,
in a upbeat mood, maybe I want to listen to Let's Dance. I mean, there's just so many options. If I'm in a arty mood, I want to listen to Scary Monsters, or you know
yeah,
or it's all over the place. And then really, I even like some of the stuff on, like, Tonight. And I mean, one of my buddies loves Never Let Me Down. So it's
yeah.
it's all over the place. So but that's a topic for another episode. So we could talk Bowie all night long, but we have to stop somewhere. So I think this is a good place to stop.
Yeah.
So Bicycle Legs, thank you so much for joining me.
A pleasure, always a pleasure, and always love to talk Bowie.
Yes, yes, and we'll be, teaser alert, we'll be doing more of that. I'm not gonna, That's all I'm gonna say. We're gonna be
Yep.
doing more at some point. So but thank you if you stayed with us this long. We really appreciate you. You must be a big Bowie fan, so thank you for sticking with us. I hope you enjoyed it. And please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you like what you see. Please, I'll put the stuff in the dingery do or whatever. Um, I always mess up that word. What do you say?
Doobly doo.
Doobly doo, the doobly doo, down below. So please hit like and subscribe if you like what you see. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we will see you next time on Curless Mania. Take care.
Bye.
Dana.